Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
One of LA's legendary punk bands, the Furies, have returned to the music scene with a vengeance. They're kicking ass. Yeah, they just came back from playing the Whiskey A Go Go 40th anniversary.
The Whiskey A Go Go.
I know. You hung out there as a kid, Nancy.
I grew up in it.
You did? No wonder you ended up going to Africa.
Still there.
I don't know. But before we bring a founding member and lead vocalist Jeff Wolfe on today's Big Blend Radio show, we're going to take a listen to Tear It Down, one of their newer recordings, featured on their latest self-titled 4-track EP. It's available on iTunes. Go to iTunes and find it. They're on Reverb Nation. They're on Facebook. And this music is so refreshing for right now, because I just feel like we need just straight up rock, in-your-face music, just straight-up stuff that you can just grasp immediately. So this song is Tear It Down, and I think if you live on the border, it's an interesting song to play right now, don't you think?
I love it.
I know. Take a listen, and then we'll chat with Jeff.
Only confusion. My town is only my town. A wall is something between us, girl. Let's tear that wall down. Tear that wall down. Yeah. Was once my sister, and she once was my pride. I can't describe how I missed her, but I left her behind. Well, it's a shame, a sin, and a crime, but I left her behind. Tear it down. Tear that wall down. Tear it down. Is a home until broken. A crowd is only a crowd. So many words left unspoken. They sound so loud. They shout and shout so loud. Oh, so loud. Tear it down. Tear that wall down. Tear it down. Tear it down. Tear it down. Tear that wall down. Tear it down.
Tear It Down. You're listening to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa, and you just heard Tear It Down, one of the newer recordings by the Furies, and it's featured on their latest self-titled 4-track EP. You can get it on iTunes. You can also keep up with them on Facebook and through Reverb Nation. And I tell you what, man, I want to just pump this up really, really loud and drive along the border, the Arizona, Texas, Mexican border, and play it really, really loud. So we're excited.
I'm worse. I want to get like a shovel and a pick, and I want to go hit that wall.
Just how do you not get amped up listening to this?
I know this is about a man and a woman.
To me, it's like, just stop it. Just get rid of the walls of any of it. Just, tear it down and get on and get real, and that's what the music's about. We have got founding member and lead vocalist Jeff Wolfe on the show with us. Welcome to Big Blend Radio, and we're all riled up now. I think
well, thanks so much. I appreciate that. It's funny to listen to that song again because I wrote it quite a while ago, but it really is kind of applicable if you just change a few of the words around to today.
Yeah.
In our trying times.
Yeah, it is. And I think, that's the thing about music. I think I'm glad you guys you're doing more recordings and working on new stuff, and we need this kind of music now. Like, we need to wake up.
I appreciate that. We I always perceive the Furies as being a powerful band with melodic poetry on top of it. And we're still working in that context. In other words, we're not just singing about, I'm driving down the street and, drinking a beer or whatever. There's always a theme to all these songs. And these days we're really focusing in on, contemporary issues, and that stuff's really important. I mean, you can listen to Bob Dylan songs from the early 60s, and a lot of that stuff is still relevant, too. Certainly Hard Rain's Gonna Fall, which is basically about nuclear holocaust, and that song. You listen to it now, same deal.
I know, isn't it crazy? I mean,
it is.
You look
at
but
that just
Chernobyl.
shows you.
I mean, that just the anniversary that just passed. And
people change, but they change slowly. So, there are things that were written a couple hundred years ago that are relevant today.
Mm-hmm. And other musicians take like Hard Rain. I know that Ryan Bingham used it. He's taking quotes from Bob Dylan and using it. I mean, look at the nuclear crap that could happen now. It's not. I mean, does that take you back to childhood when you start looking at what's happening?
It does, because when I was a kid in the 50s, we did have those drills where stop, drop, and cover, and get under your desk as if an atomic bomb. You hide under your desk; it's going to save you.
That's really going to help, man.
Yeah,
what
really,
were they thinking?
Really naive, but that's what they pushed on us when we were little kids.
Oh man! So now you guys have been going for over 40 years, the Furies, and so I know you guys.
Our first record came out in 1977.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
hard to believe. Doesn't seem like that long.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like, when you listen to the music, to me, I know there's punk, new wave, there's all these genres, but I just feel like it's just like, fire it up music. It's just straight up rock, like gets into your skin immediately. Do you classify it as punk?
When we first started playing, there were a lot of bands in that era that were playing all kinds of different music, but it was all kind of based upon, a new way of looking at rock and roll, because at that time it was all either singer-songwriters, which were pretty boring, or, prog rock, like Journey and bands like that, which were also kind of boring. So we wanted to, meaning all the bands from that era, we wanted to strip it down to 3-minute songs and just, straight ahead rock and stuff, with a message. Because, I really don't care how many times his baby left him. I'm more concerned about, if we're going to be able to breathe the air, or if kids are safe, or stuff like that, So we tended to look more poetically towards issues. And, there were just so many, in the late 70s, there were so many great bands in L.A., and there were so many venues that there was never a problem finding a place to play. We were playing every week, and with great bands, and other bands too from New York and elsewhere. So we're just trying to keep that spirit alive, and that's why it was great. We played the Whiskey a couple of weeks ago for the celebrating our 40th anniversary of our first gig there, and it's just wonderful to see it. It was packed, and it was wonderful to see the people in the audience that were in their 20s that knew the words to the song, that were singing the song back to me. And it was awesome.
Wow.
They weren't even born when some of these songs came out,
Yeah,
incredible.
That to me, I think, is where different generations are going back into music from the past, and it's not like it's from
True.
the past because music lives, it lives with us. It's that beauty. Music doesn't die. Good music doesn't die, and
yes,
I think
it is forever.
We're looking into this. It's interesting. A friend of ours, Michael Ely, him and his partner, who's since passed, unfortunately, Spider Taylor. They had a band called Red Wedding and Hey Taxi in the same time frame.
Oh, Hey Taxi, yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard of them.
Yeah, and so we were talking about it. It's like he's like, yeah, we're not punk, but they called us punk, and they were one of the first. They were like the first glam rock or glam punk openly gay band in LA. And it's
Remember
just
them.
interesting talking about that era of change. And he was like, yeah, you did posters and everything that went into a gig, and now it's a little different with Facebook, and it's just different.
It is,
how a gig is. And do you think the venues have gone away a little bit compared to
substantially. There's not as many places for live bands to play. A lot of clubs have either been turned into like top 40 cover band situations, or it's DJs, and that's a crying shame. At one point on the Strip, in the 70s, there was probably 10 different venues you could play. Besides the Whiskey, you could play Blackie's and the Troubadour and the Roxy, and smaller clubs. I can't remember the name of the one that was across the street from the Whiskey, but you could walk 6 blocks in Hollywood back then, and there were just clubs everywhere. It was amazing. It was wonderful. And now, it's basically the Whiskey's the only show in town on the Sunset Strip. Club Lingerie was on Sunset. That was a great place to play in the 80s. Club Lingerie, massive place, and just always great to play there too. Back in the day, a punk band wasn't defined by as it is now. Now it's just kind of slotted into a genre. Whereas back then, if you were experimental or cutting edge, regardless of the approach you're having to music, you were considered a punk band or a new wave band. I mean, Blondie was considered a punk band in 1977. So it's just the terms changed as the trend turned into an actual movement.
That's the interesting part of it. I mean, that's why Michael and Nancy and I were talking about this, and with you coming on the show, and he was like, well, we really weren't a punk band. They said that, but we're really not. This is not where we were.
I was just asking you. I listened to your music, and I'm like, what makes that punk?
Yeah,
I'm like, I didn't see.
It's straight up, but it's got that edge. It's got the edge of it, but it's. And when you listen to your music, you guys delve into all kinds of sounds and things. It's not like, this is, we'll play another song and it'll be completely different. And that to me is always cool because you want, the consistency is that it's badass good. It's like
that's the theory.
That's
the theory that we work on. And you don't have to be locked into it always being, a say hard rock type of song. You can do. We do ballads in our show, and we have one song that's kind of a ska kind of thing, and we used to do Dylan songs and all kinds of stuff. So it isn't just this one thing. I think you don't need to limit yourself to just one approach to music. I mean, people say, well, what kind of music are you into? Well, I like all kinds of music, really.
Yeah.
I love Bing Crosby, and I love Peter Tosh. It just I like. There's two. You always hear. You see this bumper sticker sometimes. They say, "Well, there's two kinds of music, rock and roll, but really there's two kinds of music, and it's good and bad."
Yeah.
And it's all subjective. So somebody might think, I don't know, Aerosmith is great, and somebody else might think they're not great. It just depends on your attitude. I personally lean more towards the Who and the Clash, but.
Yeah, I think so. I like there's a lot of Clash vibes in there, and Nancy and I were saying, and then there's some Mick Jagger, Eric Burton stuff in there too with the Clash.
Well, I love those guys. Those guys are great.
Yeah.
And we kind of, I think when you're trying to define something, you call on something it reminds you of. Even though it's unique, it's like a recipe for me. Like I'm going to go cooking style now. Here, there's a little of this.
Oh God, please don't cook.
Yeah, no. Well, I didn't say it was going to taste. Yeah, no, it's just
yeah,
like
the flavor doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's the experience and the process.
Yeah, it's like I get the ingredients. I didn't say it was all like.
Well, you gotta watch it. You can't go in the other room and play with your kitty. If something's on the stove.
Yeah, well, see, now that's a problem.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna get a new kitten over here in a couple of weeks. I'm really excited.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
but
yeah.
There's ingredients to music, and so some things are it makes you feel the same as this over there, but then there's a twist to it, and now it's different over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it comfy to listen to and exciting at the same time.
I like it when you can just get it immediately. Your music, you just get it instantly.
Thank you. That's kind of the point, and I'm the same way. If it hits you right away, whether you're watching a movie or reading a book or listening to music, if you have that immediate visceral reaction, you're going to follow it through to the conclusion of the piece, no matter what it is, and that's what we aim for. The opening line in a song, whether it's melodically or lyrically, is the key to anybody continuing to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a really great hook on it too, but you got to have that first line. That you go, oh man, and that's and I learned that just as a fan. As a kid listening to music. In this dirty old part of the city, it hits you right away.
So I wanted to ask what you thought about now where. It's been going in rap and then into sampling, and just when you talk about Debbie Harry and Blondie, sing about them being punk, and I remember when she was considered the first, white female doing rap, and I still keep going that was rap, really. No offense, I love her, but it's that that was interesting, that was considered rap. What do you think now with all the sampling that's happening? Do you think it's it really? It just seems it's happening. I know it's been going for a few decades, but now it's is anybody creating anything? It feels like they're using other musicians' music to get ahead in a way.
Exactly right. And for a lot of years, when that first started, the original creators of the music weren't even getting credited or getting royalties. And in fact, the guys from the Turtles, Flo and Eddie, heard one of their songs sampled in a rap piece, and this is going back, in the 90s. And they said, "Wait a minute, that's our song. He can't use this and then get the royalties and get the credit for it. He used a part of our song." So I just recently read the guy's book. In fact, Mark Molman's book, The Singer and the Turtles, and they were the guys who got that going. If you're going to use a piece of somebody's song, you can't just. It's not. This isn't a hobby. This is something that you do for a living. And hopefully it goes on long enough that you can pay some bills and buy some gas for your car. And if somebody else is using your idea, that's not right. It's like taking the face of the Mona Lisa and putting it in another picture and taking credit for it. You can't do that. That's just wrong. Mm-hmm. I think there's some people that are really talented at sampling, but that's not songwriting. That's just putting pieces of other songs together. That's a whole different issue. I met Waylon Jennings one time, and it was a wonderful experience. I sat backstage with him. This was many years ago in the 90s. But I said to him, if you can't sit in a room with an acoustic guitar and sing the song, you don't have a song. And Waylon said, "You got that right, Hoss." And that says it all. You got to be able to do the song on your own for it to be a real song, I think. So.
I think going back to sampling, that people get confused because there's famous people who have said this or that, whether you like the quote or not, and you can quote the quote, and nobody comes back at you and says, "Hey, I said that. Now pay me." They don't do that, and so people just, especially with the internet now, where you can find anything almost anytime you want.
Oh yeah.
People steal photos. They take this and make it that, and everybody thinks it's...
Put it into a T-shirt.
Make it a free-for-all. Well, I found my artwork on somebody's chest. That sounds good. In Nairobi, in Kenya, somebody's walking around in a T-shirt with my drawing of a lion. And I'm like... And I stopped the person and I said, "Hey, where
Who the hell are you?"
Yeah, how come you have my drawing on your T-shirt? And it's like, well, no, I found it. No, what? Huh? There you go.
Yeah, that's crazy. Somebody pointed out to me a couple years ago that there was a compilation CD in Spain that had 2 Fury songs on it.
Wow.
Well, I knew nothing about this.
Wow.
They didn't license the song. They're not paying royalties. But the theory that they are probably going by is that, well, if he wants to, the copyright issues in Spain are very different than they are here. And then the theory is, well, if he wants to sue us, he can take a $3,000 flight over here and hire a lawyer and sue us. It's just not worth the hassle, which is a shame because he's basically stealing from us,
Yeah. It's like license to steal right now. I think the music world right now is like this crazy thing. A friend of ours, Makane, is a slack key guitarist out of Hawaii, and obviously, and he just came back from the South by Southwest, that whole thing over in Austin, and he was talking about all these, panel discussions and how the industry is like looking at playlists through Spotify, but how all these, the big banks are getting involved now, and musicians are about to totally get raped, pillaged, and plundered.
Well,
and they have been for a while, but it's circling back around. When it comes to when I know you guys are getting ready to, you've got your EP out and you're getting ready to do more recordings. How do you feel about? Are you going to do it on your own label? How does that work for you to make sure it's good for you guys too, not the big bank?
You have a much better shot of making some money off of your music these days if you're keeping the control of your own masters and leasing it to a label, or just putting it out yourself and just selling it online, because the money goes directly to you. If you take a $15 CD that gets put out on Capitol Records or whatever, well, the band's going to make $3 or less. If a $15 CD is on your label, you're going to make $15. So there is that point, But then the alternate point is that Capitol Records, say, for example, they have a massive promotional machine at their label, so they may sell
more,
500,000 copies where you're only selling 10,000 copies. But if you sell 10,000, you're making $150,000. Whereas if they sell 10,000, they don't even break even. So it's a tough call. It really is. I produced a number of albums in the 80s and 90s, and I'd get royalties just for compilation albums that I produced, let alone my own stuff. I can tell you, talk about Spotify and all that, I can tell you a case in point is, our perennial song from '78, Say Goodbye to the Black Sheep, that's always on the radio. It's always on, I used to get royalties. It was on airline radios and all this, and at one point, BMI signed a deal with all these streaming devices to curtail the royalty payments, so now I never get royalty checks, ever.
Wow.
I used to get them quarterly.
Oh, hello.
And now,
and BMI used to be nicer and better, and then ASCAP nails some people. I mean, it's kind of a mess. It's like it's all over the place.
It is a mess. It definitely is. I mean, it's like it was in the 50s. Here's how it worked in the 50s. Say Little Richard. Little Richard goes in and records Tutti Frutti, and the label gives him $50 to record it. No royalties. The theory being is that he's going to make all the money back that he needs by playing it on stage, going on the road and playing the song. Well, I believe it was the late 70s, Richard sued the label because they still controlled the master rights, and he only got $50 for it.
Oh, God.
Fruity's everywhere, and it's in movies and all this TV commercials. How come I don't get a piece of this? Well, you did it for $50. Well, that's not really right. It goes beyond just whatever the deal is. It goes into righteousness, where you got to reward people for their work. Excuse me.
Wow. There's an integrity, man. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
That's kind of where I'm getting to this point of, like, you see it. Google tries to do things, don't duplicate content, but then, things get syndicated. So where does that level go? Things get out there. People copy stuff. You see this, somebody's done one article. And then everybody's bastardized it. Yeah,
absolutely.
You see it. And you go, okay, hello. That's why this is what I love about doing what we're doing, this podcasting radio, is that no one can duplicate our conversation with you.
Right, exactly.
The same. Read like conversations. No, it's not the drill sergeant of 10 questions that everyone else is going to ask. You can't duplicate this shit,
It
so
goes
get over
exactly.
it. get over it.
I mean, the cover of Sound of the Furies is a Russian painting from the 20s. And we went in and bought the rights to use that painting for the cover. Some people might not do that, but having been in that position, ourselves, it's like you got to give credit where credit is due. You gotta. It's just like you say. It's just right. You got to do the right thing.
Now, I've got to ask about Wicked White. I want to know about the song Wicked White, and I want to play it. Tell everybody about this.
I wrote it in 1977, and it was my take on which is kind of naive now, on the approaching wash of technology that was starting to hit us. And now you look at it now, it's like everything is technological. But back then, it was like, wait, computers? At that time, the attitude toward computers was, well, that's something the government has. You don't have that in your house, And so I wrote it then, but it still holds true,
Well, okay, how about, a driverless car killed a person in a pedestrian crosswalk. A driverless car, really? Well, duh.
Yeah, I know.
Duh.
That's crazy.
Excuse me.
Yeah. You can't walk down the street without a drone car running into you.
Can you imagine how you'd feel? You're in a crosswalk, you're crossing, and you see a car coming at you with no driver.
Terrifying.
I mean, seriously?
Okay, on that note, let's play Wicked White, because I just feel like there's these cycles, and I love the fact that you wrote it in the 70s. I mean, because you think about 77 and what was going on in the world, and now where we're at, history's repeating, and these cycles are spinning, and that's I love that you guys are out there playing and recording and doing new shit now, because it's so exciting. We need it, and it's just like, but it's this reminder of hello. It's just this reminder of. Things, they don't have to be a cycle. We can stop a cycle if we want to.
Exactly.
And we unify on that. So that's the punk side of it. But here it is, everyone. Wicked White by the Furies, and you can get it right now on their EP on iTunes. So take it out.
Faceless crowd of rebels, claws in my walls tonight.
everyone, Wicked White by the Furies. Go get it now off of the EP. It's out there on iTunes. And we've got Jeff Wolfe, founding member and lead vocalist of the Furies. Jeff, okay, apparently I've been swearing a little bit on the show because I'm getting all amped up. I don't know. Nancy's like,
good. That's a good thing.
You need to watch your language. I'm like, oopsie.
I got to mention on that song that wonderful, wonderful noise that the guitar is making.
Yeah.
It's by Chris Szilagyi, who's with us now. Chris Szilagyi was in 2020 during the era we're talking about. He did an album or two on Warner Brothers, and he produced Dave Alvin and the Redskins. He had a couple hits as a producer in England. He's just an incredible musician and a great guy.
But he brings in a psychedelic vibe with that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly
it's
right.
like here we got the rock, and then it's like but at the same time, but he's like, I don't know how he does it all in one like thing. He's
he's
here's
a genius,
the whole.
And they can do that kind of stuff.
How did the Furies get started? To bring us back to the very first day and like your voice. I mean, because you bring drama. Like you're like. You will listen to me now. Like, you will be in it.
Well, originally, I had a friend named Greg Embry, and he was my friend from high school. We would always walk around and talk about how music was getting really bad, and we wanted it to be better and all this. And he was a musician, and I was a singer, and we just started writing songs together just for fun. And we thought, well, we should have a band. And by the time we put a band together, it was the punk era was punk's new wave, whatever you want to call it, was kind of just starting out. And so we just started playing, rec rooms and garages and anywhere that somebody would invite us to play, and we could pick up a couple of bucks. And, we learned some covers so we could keep going. And then, all of a sudden in March of 78, we're playing at the Whiskey. I'm like, what? I did. I saw the Kinks here when I was a kid, and I saw Badfinger here. Now I'm playing here,
Cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. So, in fact, speaking of Wicked White, there's somebody just put a video up of it, phone video from the Whiskey of that up on YouTube just a couple days ago, which is kind of fun to see.
Check it out.
So we just kept going, and we started getting some radio play, and we did Sing by the Black Sheep, and all of a sudden it was on K-Rock, and it was a hit, and I'd go into clubs, and they'd be playing in there, and it just kept escalating, and here we are today,
So tell us about the band today, your members now.
Well, I have a great drummer that I've always admired his playing. His name's Kelly Fair, and he was in a band in Portland called Connections, and then he was in the Real Impossibles out here in the 80s. And I used to go see those guys play all the time. I go, this is the guy that I want to play with someday. And so he's been with me now for a few years, and not only is he an excellent drummer, but he's really hip to arrangements, which quite often you play with good players and all. I always had good players with me, but Kelly's really sharp with arrangements, and he's real good at like business ideas and stuff. So he's a really great guy to have, and he's a really nice guy
too. Is a big deal. That's a really big deal for a drummer
because you gotta have a great drummer.
They know how to switch it up. I mean, there's the foundation. Them
exactly right. And then I have Dave Lutie with me on bass. Dave was in a band in England called the Cheaters, and they're another one who's like, they were like quote a punk band, but they also play like classic rock and all. But they were really hardcore, kind of like the Clash, sorta. Yeah. And they were very busy when they're gigging all the time. He told me one year they played 300 dates in 1 year.
Wow, that's a lot.
They're from Manchester, England. So he's with us, and he's also really good with arrangements. And I've been writing a lot of new material for the Furies with him, and it's a real thrill because we do think alike, Dave and I, in terms of our writing. I'll be over there working. I was over there last Sunday, in fact, working on a new song, and he goes, what if we get rid of this part? I go, that doesn't really work. And he'll say it as I'm thinking it, and vice versa. All these guys are like that I'm working with. And at the Whiskey, we had another great guy with us, Steve Kobashigawa, playing keyboards and singing with us. So we've got a really solid lineup right now. And like I say, we're going to be going in and working on recording new material, new songs that Dave and I have written, and we've written quite a few.
Oh, that's exciting. That is
30.
So exciting.
We've got about 30 new songs, so we want to pare it out to like 10 and record a an album of all brand new material. So that's our goal.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
It is exciting.
I want to hear it. Can you hurry up?
Okay, I'll get it done right away and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, no, you got to come back on as soon as that's ready, because like to me that's
I'd love to.
Just really good music that just like boom, let's get it on, you know, and that makes me swear and want to drive down borders and like
just
flare out anything. Anybody
that
has a uniform. No, I don't mean that, because like there's really good people with uniforms, and then there's the other side. Just like in any walk of life, there's nice people and bad people, right? And
exactly right. Nothing's black and white. Everything. You know, not everybody is a bad person. Not everybody is in a certain context is a bad person. Not everybody in a certain context is a good person. Everybody's an individual. Mm-hmm. You have to judge them all on that face value. You know.
I celebrate individuality. That's important.
Why I like the style of music and what you're doing is I think sometimes I'm not an angry person, but sometimes I just want to like shake people and say, "Wake up!
What are you thinking?
Are you alive, or are you just going to work and back?"
So true. It's really true.
And and so your music is like, "Wake up!"
And this is what we need. We need boom boxes back. Okay.
I agree.
I know all of this. I want boom boxes back, and what I want to do, instead of having meetings with people you don't want to have meetings with, and you know when you have to tell people stuff, you bring the boom box in and you tear it down, and you play it to them, and you walk out the room. It's like, here, figure it out for yourself. It's right there.
There's our meeting.
That's it. You know.
That's the perfect way to do it.
Exactly.
You're talking about individualism. When the first gig the Furies played, the first actual gig, as opposed to, like I say, playing rec rooms and living rooms and all that stuff, was we did a show late '77 at some guys rented out a movie theater in Huntington Beach, and they put 3 bands on. And at that time, you know, as I said, there really was no what you want to call punk scene or whatever. So we went on between these 2 progressive rock type bands that had on, you know, bell bottoms and satin shirts and long shag haircuts and all that stuff. When we came on. And we had, you know, skinny ties and short hair and sport jackets and, you know, Beatle boots and all this crap. And I remember this kid in the audience. It was all surfer kids because Huntington, that's what it is. And I remember coming out, and he looked at, and it was packed, you know, and he looked at me, and he wasn't mad. He just looked at me, and he yelled out, "Why are you guys wearing ties?" Because it was just unheard of for a rock and roll band to look like that. And that's the whole point. You know, we were not like everybody else.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that because it was charming, you know, because he wasn't angry. He was just mystified. Wait, what? Huh? And then of course at the end, you know, he loved it.
So now, okay, so when was it? Because I remember growing up, and it was, you know, I was a teenager in South Africa, but like becoming teenager, young girl in England. It was in the early 80s. And going from Kenya, living in different circumstances in Kenya, from the bush to the city, literally, getting out there, and all of a sudden, like, I'm in the sea of punk, and it was so crazy.
Really
I mean, at this point, you know, and I mean, they would shave heads and mohawks and, you know, piercings, and I was like, I'm still in Africa. You're just white.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And it was crazy, and I was like, this is crazy. And then, but there was like this daring of like, oh, you're looking at me, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Did that become like almost? Do you think that it almost became like a glam thing in a way, like that it went from just belting out the music to almost everybody had that look?
Right, and originally when you know the Furies and other bands in that era. You know, the Weirdos and the Quick and all these bands. When we first started out,
I like it.
When we started out, you know, it was like a statement. But by the, you know, and this was, like I said, the late, you know, 77, 78, and then by the time the early 80s rolled around, it became kind of like a fashion thing, a trend.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, it's like, oh, right now it's in to wear a black collar jacket and a mohawk, so I'm going to look this way. Whereas
Doc
when
Martin
we did it, yeah, exactly. You could, and when we started out, you know, you couldn't go to a store and buy this crap. You know, you had to go to thrift stores and buy it and alter it sometimes. You know, if you liked a pair of pants, and they were bell bottoms, you get your mom to take them in at the bottom so they're straight legs, you know. Whereas now you can go to Hot Topic in any mall and set yourself up looking like a punk rocker, you know. It wasn't like that when we were kids. You know, when we were starting it out, it was way different because it was really an outlaw movement. It really was.
Yeah.
We were like musically we were like nothing else. We didn't look like anybody else, and we didn't think like anybody else, and that was the whole point. Because at that point, you know, everybody in America, especially, you know, was all long-haired, big bell-bottoms, and just listening to garbage music that was just dead, you know.
Oh, God. You just pissed off some people on that one because it's like, oh, no, we won that. But it got to this point.
Well, that's you know, and it's okay that they disagree with me. It's okay, too. But,
it's
you know,
okay
there were still some
exactly.
bands from the old era were still kicking ass. The Rolling Stones have always kicked ass, so they're out of my criticism.
Yeah, but there is this point I think where it changed, and the 80s also did it like, hey, we're done. Like the 80s did say like we're done with this now. We need and disco screwed everybody up.
Oh God,
disco
seriously.
Disco screwed everybody up. Nobody knew what to do with it.
That was all John Travolta's fault.
No, that was just about.
Well, you know what's funny
cocaine.
because disco was fading out, and then that movie came out with John Travolta, and all of a sudden it had a resurgence.
And
that came out the same year, so it was like, oh my God.
And
it was just terrible dealing with that stuff.
No, and then John Travolta had the bell bottoms and had to fix them.
Well, I felt like punk to me was about enough of this. We need to go back to the roots and just kick it. You know, it's like just get down to basics. You guys have frillied everything up. You know, it's like get on with it. And okay, so I wanted to ask about San Diego because LA definitely, of course, is a music scene like you were talking about. But San Diego, we had a band in San Diego, and some of the old school musicians were like, San Diego kicked ass at one point, like and it still is, I think. And we went to some really interesting clubs out by the airport. Remember when Jesse, the drummer?
Oh boy.
Yeah, and it was some crazy stuff. And San Diego, there was a music scene of all, like even starting in the 50s, like just jazz bands and stuff. And what was it like for you guys? Because you went out and played there. What do you think?
We did. We played. I can't remember the name of the place. We played there a couple times. But one time we were playing there, and it was in basically like a concrete block. You know, it's just like I guess you could say like a storage unit, except it was bigger and it wasn't a storage unit. I don't know what it was actually made for. It was concrete. And it was by the shipyards, and we went in there and played, and it was really packed. There's no stage or anything. We're just there's a PA and the overhead lights, and we go in there and played, and we're doing our show, and it's just packed, and they're all jumping up and down and screaming and leaping in the air and all this, and the power went out. So not only are the amps not working, but the lights aren't working. So me and the drummer, Gary, we just kept going. I kept yelling the song, and he kept playing the drums, and you could just hear these people screaming back at us, and you could see vaguely people flying in the air and everything, and then a couple minutes later the lights came back on. But it was that primitive and that visceral that even though there was no power and there's no music except for the drumming and the singing, it still kept going. And to me, that was like a quintessential example of what the spirit of this music was at that time. Was that, hey, no matter what you're up against, you keep going. And I'll never forget that as long as. In fact, somebody just recently sent me a copy of the flyer for that gig. The band that we played with was called the Exterminators. And
that sounds familiar.
It does.
I think they were really big down there at that time. This would have been like '78, And oh my God, it was just great. And we made money at the thing too, which is great. My daughter's boyfriend is in a band called Fringe, a really good band, and they're doing the same kind of dates that we were doing 40 years ago. Playing warehouses and rec rooms and stuff. And that's what it's all about. That's the roots of this whole thing.
This is important because that's how breweries are being formed. I mean, that's important.
Yeah, but, exactly. It's the do-it-yourself thing.
Yeah, get over this slick thing and just go out and get over it. Do it. This is interesting.
Corporate America has ruined this country. Corporate America has ruined this country. It's in a microcosm, it's ruined the music business, but in big ways, it's ruined the nation because there's no spirit of independence left, or at least it's been diminished by the overwhelming tide of corporatism. You know, and that's why it's good that people are starting up their own breweries or they're starting their own magazines or whatever it is they're doing. You know, you got to keep it real and you got to keep it street.
Here's the thing, you know, I want to use the word convenience because at the end of the day, it's the person sitting listening, the person in the street, the people. You can blame corporate America because for sure. However, I just want to say they always sell to the one point where people fall to it, convenience.
That's a really, really good point. It's an excellent point, and it's true.
This is where, as soon as I hear this is convenient, then I know you're only getting the half-baked store. You're not really ever going to get the real stuff. So when you go shopping in the store and this is a convenient meal, you know it's full of things you don't really want to eat because it's convenient. No, and so and it's the same. It's just really. Back
but
to
you're right. You're absolutely right. You know, it's like people go into a 7-Eleven and spend $3 for a bottle of water when you got water at your house.
Yeah,
but it's convenient.
And it's both bad for you.
But there's so many industries that are born out of convenience.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it started with
fast food.
The Ford, the car. It started with the car is more convenient than walking.
Mm-hmm.
And it blossomed from there. So at the end of the day, are we all that lazy? And then here comes the internet and computers that are convenient, and we all make a living off of it in a way that we can figure out to do it. But at the end of the day, you got to look at the person and say, really? You can't walk around the block? Really?
Because you're talking about the flyers, and I think this is such a cool thing. It used to be you have a gig and you'd make flyers and posters.
Oh, yeah.
You can't even, you're not even allowed to put them out
anywhere now. But you'd have
now.
street gangs that would go out, like fans and friends, and we'd go out and put flyers on windshields, and don't do that. Now you have car alarms. But like
it's convenient.
You know what I mean?
Oh, but that was how we did it. You know, you'd print up 1,000 flyers.
Yeah.
And you give them to some of your fans, and I go out and do it too. You know, and you go to gigs and hand them out to people.
Yeah.
You put them on street corners, telephone poles, whatever, and that's how you promoted the gig. You know, it's just
now we have Facebook and all that, which is all good because you can reach further. But there was something. I think there's something about.
I'm sorry, your data has been breached.
But look at your flyers. Isn't there something super cool about the flyers that were those kinds of flyers?
Absolutely.
There's something awesome. It's like an album cover. Like it is.
Yeah.
Each thing is it's an important thing. It's like this is an event. You're going to an event. Now it's like
my theory about playing gigs is no matter if you're playing to 5 people or 5,000, it's an event, and you have to give it your all no matter what the situation is. You just get up there, you take control of the stage, and you lead the band through the show. That's what you do. And whatever happens. If the power goes out, you just keep going. You know.
Exactly. What you do. You do it. So now what's happening in regards to timelines for recordings? The self-titled EP is out now, so the Furies.
Yes.
By the way,
and then we have the Sound of the Furies, and we are, like I say, the next step that I want to do, and we're looking at some more dates to do too. We had such a great time at the Whiskey that we're looking at some more dates because we're trying to do the Furies as an event act.
Oh, good.
So instead of just playing anywhere, anytime for nothing, we're looking at events. So we had the 40th anniversary of the Furies. We're looking at doing a show down in Orange County to be the 40th anniversary of the first time the Furies played in Orange County. And other things of that nature. We're looking to hook up with some. Kelly's looking into this. In fact, our drummer, we're looking into hooking up with other bands from our era and doing package shows.
Oh, cool!
Like 3 bands from the 70s and 80s doing a big show together. So we're looking at doing that. And then, like I say, we're going to be going in and recording an album of new material. So that's kind of our current goals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
I'm excited.
I mean, so is the Facebook the best place for people to keep in touch with you and to watch for gigs? And
yes, we have 2 Facebook. We have the group. We have the Furies 21st Century group is a group on Facebook, and then we have a page that's just called the Furies. And the 21st Century group page is like current news and stuff like that. And then the Furies page is kind of like songs, pictures, and stories of the Furies and stuff like that. But they cross-pollinate. But there's quite a few people on those, and then they can, if anybody's listening wants to get the Sound of the Furies promo CD, they can go to Hotel Sophia on eBay, and they have them on there. Because we never really released it because we were just using it for booking and stuff. But I'm really gonna look at actually putting it out as a legitimate CD. And a lot of the songs from the Sound of the Furies are also on YouTube as audio. You can hear that on a lot of those. There's like 30-some Furies tracks on YouTube, whether it's live or some of the studio tracks. We did 3 singles, 7-inch singles in the 70s, and then we did a 12-inch EP at EMI in the 80s. And then, of course, we got the current stuff. So
I'm excited for. I know this. We've got Sound of the Furies album, and I'm just like, dude, I'm just gonna go start rocking it out everywhere and get everybody.
Excellent.
Come on. So I hope that actually, I know you say it's on eBay, so people can get it there. So people go check it out, because just having the whole thing, you want the whole thing, and I'm excited about new music. Before we go, and we're gonna play one more song before you go. But Nancy had a question here.
No, I was just going to say that it's been a long time since I've heard 7-inch singles.
I know.
There's nothing like
my son is a big collector of 7-inch singles. He's 24, and he loves singles. He loves them. It's amazing.
And we're back to the single world too. That's the other part of it. That's the other.
And it's a great thing.
It's like, here's out. I like albums. Because once I get into it, I want more. Maybe I'm an addictive personality of that way. I don't know. It's like, hey, you can't just.
No, you get into a good album. A good album. It flows from the beginning to the end. And
I love
I've
this
always
album.
found like it gets you in a mode, and you want to finish that feeling.
Yeah.
You got to ride it to the end.
Okay, so we're gonna play "The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore."
Oh, I got a real interesting story about that one.
I knew there would be a story behind this.
The 2 women who played the strings on that, the string arrangement, Chris Szilagyi wrote the string arrangement, which is wonderful. But the 2 women who played the violin and cello parts in that play with Brian Wilson.
Oh.
So that's really exciting to have somebody that's
nice.
actually been with the main Beach Boy who wrote all those great songs and sharing stories while we were tracking that those strings parts. So it was very cool.
This is awesome. Awesome.
Thank
you so much for joining us. It's been a total blast,
thank you.
and the music has been awesome. We can't wait for more of it. And I'm going to go join your group page because, hey, I want to keep up to date with this. And
Excellent.
Everyone, so Facebook, type in The Furies. Okay, my last thing is the name The Furies.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's novels with the Fury and all that. But there is like it feels like it's like here we are. We're like it's like you.
Well, the Furies were the Greek gods that guarded the gates of heaven.
I knew it.
Mhm.
I knew it.
There you go, everybody. All right, so there it is. That's
the story.
It's going to be. Well, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Lisa.
Again,
thank you, Nancy.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Oh, I loved it. I had a great time talking to you.
You keep us posted on new music. We're going to
sure
play
will.
The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore. Go to Get the Furies on iTunes. Go to Facebook. And don't forget, Big Blend Radio airs daily, 4 p.m., 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Thursday. Friday through Sunday, we are 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Check it all out at bigblendradio.com. All of our social media, everything is there. Here it is. The sun ain't going to shine anymore. Take care, everyone. Take care. Jeff, it's been a pleasure.
Same here. Thanks so much.
Loneliness is a cloak you wear, a deep shade of blue is always there. The sun ain't gonna shine anymore. The moon ain't gonna rise in the sky. The tears are always clouding your eyes when you're without love, baby. Emptiness is a place you're in with nothing